Hi, and welcome to Plane Legacy. I'm Bill, and today we're taking a look at a twin-engine attack aircraft known as the A-20 Havoc. Built by the Douglas Aircraft Company, its variant served in the Pacific, North Africa, and the European theater of operations alongside other aircraft. Effective in low-level attacks in the Pacific, used in the bomber role against German and Italian forces, there was even an attempt at a night fighter variant. Stick around as we consider a sample of its history with the United States Army Air Force and its allies. In the mid-1930s, aware of the geopolitical threats on the horizon, Douglas began work on their Model 7A. Led by Jack Northrop and Ed Heinemann, their goal was to provide a more capable attack aircraft than the current existing designs, such as the Northrop A-17. By 1937, influenced by the Spanish Civil War, the Army issued a request for an attack aircraft with a 1,200-mile range and a 1,200-pound bomb load. When Northrop left Douglas, Heinemann took the lead with what was then the Model 7B, a design with two nose options, a solid nose and a transparent bombing design. Surreptitiously, Douglas was working with the French on a 7B design that had an improved range, bomb load, armor, and French flight instruments. That upgrade saw a revision of the fuselage and wing placement, a stronger tail assembly, and 30 caliber machine guns, and it was referred to as the DB-7 for Douglas Bomber 7th Type. Only a few became operational with France before Germany invaded, and the surviving examples ended up with the Vichy Air Force. The British received DB-7As with a revised hydraulic and fuel system, equipped with British instruments and .303 caliber machine guns, and with a 2,000-pound bomb capacity. They began arriving in England in 1940. The early models were known as Boston 1s, while an improved Pratt & Whitney R1830 engine variant was known as the Boston 2. The Boston 3 was a DB-7B, while those built by Boeing were known as the Boston 3A and had some minor differences. These aircraft began replacing Blenheim bombers or served as night fighters. One British night fighter variant was equipped with a searchlight in the nose so powerful it could be operated in only 12-second bursts. Called the Havoc Turbine Light, it tracked German aircraft by its radar and then illuminated them in the nighttime skies for Hurricanes and other fighters to see and attack. Radar antennae were placed on the sides of the nose, and a revised exhaust damper was fitted to this night fighter. It had less than ideal results, however, and was removed from service by January of 1943. Some Havoc 1 or Havoc 2's, as the Boston night fighters were referred to, towed a 2,000-foot-long cable with a long aerial mine attached at the end of it to be dangled in front of enemy bomber formations in the hopes of snagging one. But this resulted in only a single enemy bomber destroyed, and the program was dropped. In the United States, the initial Army Air Force design was the A-20, quickly updated to the A-20A model, known as the BD-1 in the Navy. The A-20B lacked self-sealing fuel tanks and was known as the BD-2 in the Navy. The A-20C became the standardized version with increased armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, and 4 fixed 30 caliber cheek guns. Some of the A-20C airframes were built for Brittan as the Boston 3s, and also some more were supplied to the Soviet Air Force. The A-20G, shown in today's episode, was the most widely produced model with 2,850 built. It was the first of the solid-nose A-20s, often equipped with 650 caliber Browning machine guns. Many also featured the Martin power turret with 2 additional 50 caliber machine guns. And finally, a 50 caliber machine gun replaced the 30 caliber machine gun in the ventral tunnel gun position. 2 70-gallon fuel tanks were added in the bomb bay, and additional armor was fitted along with improved navigation and bombing systems. It was 48 feet long and had a wingspan of 61 feet 4 inches with an overall height of 17 feet 10 inches. Powered by two Wright R-2600 radial engines producing 1,600 horsepower each, it could carry 2,000 pounds of bombs internally and 2,000 pounds externally. With a range of 1,250 miles, its top speed was 317 miles per hour with a cruising speed of 230. The A-20J was the glazed nose version of the A-20G. This model carried a bombardier in the nose and served as a lead ship, which led flights of solid nose bombers. When the J model's bombardier dropped its bombs, the other aircraft followed suit. Similarly, the solid-nosed H model and glazed-nosed K model operated in the same way, but were equipped with Wright R-2300 engines. This versatile aircraft was converted to a night fighter designated the P-70, which was regarded too slow to be effective. Equipped with radar and four 20mm cannon in a ventral tray, or 6 to 8 50 caliber machine guns, this aircraft filled the gap until the Northrop P-61 Black Widow was operational. The P-70 served as a training ground for future P-61 crews. The A-20 had an inauspicious beginning in its Pacific service when most were destroyed on the ground during the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Its next encounter with the Japanese wouldn't come for 8 months. But by then, A-20s had been transformed under the direction of Major Paul "Pappy" Gunn into devastating low-level gunships with 50 caliber nose guns that strafed enemy positions, parked aircraft, shipping, troops, and supply concentrations of every description. Adding to their effectiveness was the use of parafrags, that is, parachute-equipped fragmentation bombs that drifted into enemy positions with devastating results. It conducted skip bombing attacks on Japanese shipping flying just above the wavetops. The A-20, whose primary tactic was to attack at as low an altitude as possible, was deployed widely across the Pacific theater with considerable success. It was the A-20's maneuverability, devastating strafing ability, bomb load, and the ability to see camouflage positions by flying at treetop height that gave the A-20 such an advantage. The North African theater was a different story, however. Low-level tactics against supply routes, troops, and airfields led to a high loss rate due to the more effective and intense German anti-aircraft defenses. Therefore, A-20s in this theater were often assigned to the bomber role. However, A-20s did prove highly effective in low-level attacks against German forces advancing in the Kasserine Pass in February of 1943. A-20s in this theater also supported Allied ground forces during the Sicilian campaign. A-20s in the bomber role in the European theater of operations initially conducted interdiction missions against coastal targets, including airfields, bridges, railroad marshalling yards, transportation and communications targets, and later even V-1 launching sites. Many of those missions were in support of the buildup for the Normandy invasion, and later provided air support for the breakout and added their fury to the encircled German army in the Falaise pocket. Operating from captured airfields in France, the plane design, once bound for the defense of France, continued attacks against German forces along the front lines and Siegfried fortifications. During the Battle of the Bulge, A-20s once again made their mark with withering minimum altitude ground support missions. Late in the war, they conducted night bombing raids on supply and communications targets. The legacy of the A-20 is its flexibility in either a low-level attack or bomber role. Heineman's two-nose option design led the way to its versatility and impact in World War II for U.S. and Allied aircrews. Maneuverable and heavily armed, it was prized for minimum altitude missions when not faced with highly coordinated and effective anti-aircraft fire. Having transparent-nosed variants with a bombardier to lead flights of medium bombers provided an option against the more heavily and effectively defended German targets. Its successor, the Douglas A-26 Invader, carried on the design legacy of the Havoc. By the time production ended in September of 1944, over 7,000 A-20s had been built. The aircraft featured in today's episode is an A-20G and can be found at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. It bears the markings of the 89th Bomb Squadron, Light, which operated in the Southwest Pacific. The museum states that this example, nicknamed Little Joe, was donated to them in 1961. Thank you for watching today's episode. If you enjoyed seeing the A-20 and learning about its use, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to see earlier content and hit the bell to be notified when future content becomes available. You can share this episode with your history and aviation-minded friends and leave a comment about what you think made the A-20 effective. And we'll see you next time right here on Plane Legacy.